Hey everyone, welcome back to the Invest in Yourself podcast. Today I'm joined by Gianni Russo and Patrick Picciarelli. They both have written a new book together called The Sixth Family. It's a really good book. I recommend anybody that enjoys this podcast to please check it out. A lot of people know Gianni Russo from his acting in The Godfather. He played the character Carlo Rizzi. Gianni Russo was also very close to high-level Mafia figures. One in particular was Frank Costello, who had mentored him when he was a young kid. Gianni also had a relationship with Marilyn Monroe. She is a big character in this book about the Sixth Family. Patrick, on the other hand, is a retired NYPD Lieutenant, Vietnam veteran, and a private investigator. He has been writing books for a number of years now. They make one interesting duo, that's for sure. And without further ado, let's get into the interview. Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Doing great, man. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for coming on. It's, an honor to meet both of you. I really enjoyed your book, The Sixth Family. Man, that was, a hell of a book. I haven't read a lot of fiction, but when you told me that Johnny had a book out, when I reached out to you, Patrick, I was like, damn, you guys made a book. I'm going to read it. And, it was really, really good, man. And you guys wrote it really quick too, right, Patrick?
Yeah, well, when you reached out to me, and you gave us a glowing review, and we thank you for that. You're very effusive about the book. And I said to Gianni, hey, somebody read our book. And it was Adrian. Anyway, that's how we connected. But yeah, this is our second book.
Okay.
Gianni and I connected about 6 years ago, maybe seven now. And it wasn't the easiest road because of our diverse backgrounds. Is that a good way to put it, Gianni?
I guess so. It's like black and white.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go.
We grew up in the same neighborhood, which is the Little Italy section of Manhattan.
Uh-huh.
And I took a different road in life, so to speak. After I got out of the Army, I'm a Vietnam vet. It was a natural transition to go in the NYPD, I guess. It's just a lot of guys were going, becoming cops. And it's hard to leave the action, so to speak. But anyway,
True.
eventually I got to a position where doing a little organized crime work. I did a little undercover with the Chinese gangs. By the way, I don't know if you know this, Adrian, but I'm not Chinese. Did you see that? Did you recognize that?
Yeah, you don't look too Chinese to
Yeah.
me.
No, I was playing the role of a corrupt cop selling pistol licenses. But
And
anyway, I
they,
used to take Johnny around, part of the organized crime OCCB thing,
Mhm.
Organized Crime Control Bureau. And I see Gianni floating around, and I said, who is this guy? Because everywhere I went, there he was. And finally somebody said, well, that's Gianni Russo. I said, well, he's with a lot of wise guys, a lot of restaurants. I said, can you tell me anything about him? He said, not really. I mean, the guy did a whole bunch of movies. One of them was The Godfather, and he's got a lot of friends in the life, as I do. I mean, we grew up in the same area. But it turned out coincidentally that our agent, Frank Wyman, who's vice president of Folio Literary, contacted me, and he said, I got this guy, Gianni Russo. And then he asked a rhetorical question. Have you ever seen The Godfather?
Of course.
What kind of question is that? It's just like, have you ever seen your kids? I mean,
It's funny. I was just telling I think my brother, that my older brother, I was like, you ever watch The Godfather? He's like, what kind of question is that? Of course,
yeah. But
everybody has.
I have an odd system. I no longer live in New York. I live in the middle of nowhere in Western Pennsylvania, a small town. And I came here basically to write because it wasn't getting done in New York. I was always busy doing things that could get myself in trouble. But anyway, we decided to come here, my wife and I. She was pregnant with our first child, and we figured where I lived in Jackson Heights, Queens, which is the cocaine capital of the world. I mean, we decided to move one day when somebody fired a shot through our window. I mean, nobody was aiming at me. It was just a stray bullet, and got to get out of town. But writing, collaborating with somebody is a difficult proposition when you're in the same room together. Try doing this on the phone.
Yeah.
I've written probably my last 5 books over the phone.
Really?
Well, Gianni and I met over the phone, wrote the entire book over the phone. We never met.
Never.
Pull the
And
books out. It's crazy. Crazy.
yeah, well, you can tell the story. I mean, the first time we met was when you were appearing in Pittsburgh.
Right. So I invited him to come because I'm going to be in the neighborhood. And that's when we first met. And I mean, we were hitting it off like old friends since our first conversation on the phone because he had my rhythm. We came from the same neighborhood and knew a lot about me. And like other people on the job been trying to arrest me, not knowing what I did or didn't do, but I was doing something wrong. They figured something's going on with this guy. He
Yeah.
dresses too well, he's got too many cars, and he don't have a job.
Yeah, I said the same thing. Every time I turned around, Johnny would turn up like a bad penny. I said, "Who is this guy? Does he have a lot of brothers?" I mean, the guy is everywhere. Everybody looks like Gianni Russo, you know. But
Yeah.
I don't know what you felt, Gianni. I don't think we ever talked about this, but the initial connection. First of all, did you trust me or the both of us to be able to write a book over the phone?
Well, the reason I did, I already went through so many people. Frank Wyman, as you mentioned earlier, our agent, he's a top agent. Folio Group is a major publisher, literary agent. And he even brought Dan Moldier in. I
Yeah.
met with Dan Moldier. I
Yeah.
met Nick Pileggi, who I know. Gay Talese is my neighbor down the block. And these are the names he was throwing at me. And with Dan Moldier, I'll never forget it because the Clinton book just came out. It was a major book that he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, really, what do you know about me? He says, what are you talking about? I said, you're going to write my book. What do you know about me? He says, well, we're going to collaborate. I said, no. Here's what I'd like you to do. Could you write me a small synopsis of who you think Gianni Russo is? And he went crazy. I'm Dan Moldia. You're crazy. And he hung up. So
Oh, he,
Wyman said, that ain't going to work. I said, well, how the guy's going to write about me? You don't even know me. Forget about it.
Well, you've been looking for a writer since 1995.
I know. Oh, no.
damn. And you guys just recently started working 6 years ago.
Well, the thing is, he wanted somebody, and justifiably so, who knew the street.
Yeah.
I mean, and me being I retired a lieutenant on the job, but and lieutenants are managers, and obviously not on the street. But Kojak reruns notwithstanding, but I spent my formative years on that job on the street, doing what street cops do, and plus we were born within like 2 blocks of each other. We're
Yeah.
almost the same age. I mean, everything just clicked. So I'm sure that helped, right, Gianni? Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here talking
Oh,
about.
yeah. No, I definitely, I mean, everything about it when we first started talking, I thought I knew the guy for years. And
Yeah.
it really was what was important to me that they know how to tell the story. And you should get this book. We'll send it to you if you don't have it. But the bottom line is, we were just going through COVID,
Yeah.
and now we want to write this book. And my beginnings in 1949, August 7th, I was put in Bellevue Hospital, a state hospital here, for
Mm-hmm.
5 years quarantined. Saw nobody.
Damn.
So, and everybody was, even my kids and my grandchildren were saying, "Poor me." I said, "Well, if you wanted to be me, you'd be." And it's not hospitals as we know it. Then, you're in a hospital bed. There's no television. There's nothing. You're staring at a ceiling 24/7 for
Jesus.
5 years, and 2,300 kids died in that ward over that time. So,
Damn.
Polio.
polio was,
Polio one.
So that was a whole different pandemic then, and there was
yeah.
no
That's
distractions or
why
anything.
I wanted them to know here we are again. And it took 3 years for Jonas Salk to perfect the vaccine. Here they had vaccines in 3 months. I didn't want to
Yeah,
take
yeah, well,
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, that caused a lot of issues, but
and still is. A
yeah.
lot of people are dying for no reason. You're going to
Yeah.
take away another whole issue. Overweight young guys are dying. I just lost another guy.
Yeah, man. Sorry
Nice
to hear
kid,
that.
34 years old. No, it's life is what it is. But that was the message, and he had the beat, the rhythm, and we did it. But our book is a bestseller still. You go on Amazon now, there's thousands of 5-star reviews, and it's still selling.
Yeah, after that, I've been in this game a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and usually a hardcover book goes out of print within a year. That's the average.
Mm-hmm.
We're in our fifth year, and we're actually selling this last we can tell by the royalty checks. Oh, the last check actually went up 20%.
Damn.
So Gianni did some crunching of numbers. We've sold 60,000 books. That's a lot of books.
That is. I mean, holy
So
shit.
and it's still
Somebody
going. And I'd
just
like to say it's because of my expertise and my Ernest Hemingway gene. But truthfully, it's all on Gianni. This guy is like the Energizer Bunny. I have never seen somebody. We're not spring chickens anymore. At
well,
least I
I'm
speak
80.
for myself.
I'm 80. How old are you,
I'm
Adrian?
Me?
I'm only 23.
23. The
Yeah.
shirt's older than you.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, the guy was constantly moving, and to this day, he's the one that's pushing the book. Like I said, I live in this little town. We don't even have sidewalks. I mean, there's nothing here.
Mhm.
Besides that, I don't have the celebrity that he
Yeah.
has. But, I mean, he's constantly being asked to perform at functions. He's making a 17 city tour now. And
Jeez.
during these tours, he sells a lot of books. So our
Yeah.
idea, before you ask the question, was what do we do next? And with any book that's successful, like Hollywood Godfather,
Yeah.
you got to top it. And there were certain things. Well, I'll let Gianni tell the story why we thought about doing fiction rather than nonfiction as a second book.
Hmm.
Well, guys, the notoriety of the book got a lot of attention, and a lot of my lawyers who've been representing me for many, many years in all different aspects of my colorful life, and they said, you keep writing books, you're going to get indicted.
So
or,
Oh, it's
much.
or
true.
you know,
Damn. So much crazy
all
shit that you've been through. I
Well,
mean,
not only that, the statutes, like in Europe, are 30 years, not 7 in America. And
oh,
there's no statutes on murder.
yeah.
And I happened to get involved in 3 of them, and
The-
fortunately, they were all justifiable and well, basically self-defense. 2 of them
mhm.
I saved 2 different women at the time. That
Damn.
one that was unbelievable. It happened in my nightclub in Las Vegas, State Street, and wound up the guy who attacked the woman, and I was about to jump into it, and he stabbed me and gave me 81 stitches along my neck. So
Holy
now I was trained. Now you wound me, you're dead. That's how I play the game. But it was Pablo Escobar's guy. I shot him between the eyes with 2 bullets.
and that
Damn.
really pissed off Pablo. But all this is in the book. This is how I started off the book. Uh, I have a formula, and it's been successful. This is how he started out Gianni's book. It's not in chronological order as far as the first chapter goes. We're talking about nonfiction here. It's the most exciting thing that happened in his life that would catch the attention of the reader, grip the reader, and have the reader say, "I want to know about this guy."
Yeah.
And and when I reference the reader, I'm talking about the publisher
Hmm.
because we already have an agent. That's a given. We had Frank Warner for 30 years. Uh, and the incident that Gianni just spoke about, the incident in his club, that was the first chapter. That took place in, was Gianni, 1986?
Yeah.
Okay, so naturally he wasn't born in 1985. So, I mean, so you do that first chapter, and it's a really gripping chapter. I mean, a lot of blood. It was, 500 people in the club, celebrities and whatever. And that kicked off the book. And then from chapter 2 on, then we started chronologically up until the point in the book, about maybe 3/4 of the way through the book, where the timeline meets that first chapter, if you can follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then write the rest of the book till the end. And but phenomenal hit. I mean, and like I said, I owe it all to Gianni. Of course, the writing's not bad, but
No, the
there's
writing's
lots of
phenomenal.
books,
Yeah.
lots of books out there are written well and never go anywhere. It's about marketing, and this man is the king. In fact, he once told me, this is an interesting story. You probably forgot he told me this story. We would talk probably 5 times a week during the process of writing the book, and he was always in a car. I said,
Hmm.
"Where the hell are you going?" I mean, he's always going somewhere in a limousine. So this one particular time, I said, "Where are you going?" This is like a thing we did all the time. Where are you going? And he would tell me because I live vicariously through him. I'm like in the middle of literally nowhere. And I like to hear all this stuff. This restaurant meeting, this guy and that guy. So this particular time, I asked him. I said, "Where are you going?" And I get silence. He had to ask the driver. he said, he said, "If somebody wants to whack me, all I have to do is pull up to my house, honk the horn twice. I'll get in the car, and you'll never see me again." He said, that's he's always going somewhere, doing something. There's always something big in charity. The guy's huge, working charitable events.
Damn,
But
no, that's good that you give back to the community and stuff as well, and because I know a lot of people are out there struggling and stuff, and
Oh my God, yeah. And
well, I
I
don't.
think it's important, it's but if you don't give back, I've been doing it all my life. But what he's saying is so true, because even my doorman said, Mr. Russo, you don't even know these drivers. You don't know who they are. No, I said, I just get in the car and go. But
Yeah,
because
you
he
you was
talks to them, and they said, you're picking up. He said, no.
they
It
don't
was
even
just,
know.
because I don't want them to know, number one, go to this address and tell the doorman to bring 4D his cars here and I come down.
you
Yeah,
know. Johnny doesn't toot his own horn, but I'll toot it for him. He's involved in numerous, and I mean, you haven't don't have enough fingers and toes. Charities that he devotes his time to, and all this is in the first book, of course, and numerous stories of his life. But at the end, we go through all the charitable functions and everything that he does. He gives away a lot. He gives back, and with his lifestyle and what he's done all his life, you don't find too much of that. In fact, you don't find any of it.
and did that come from Johnny? Did that come from like when you were growing up? I mean, did you have a lot of hardships and stuff that you went through that kind of
Well,
made
I
you
mean,
want?
the most major one, I was put in a hospital in August,
Mhm.
6.5 years of age, and spent 5 years there. You couldn't get more
Yeah,
major than that.
yeah.
He
So
didn't have one.
what's that?
Didn't, didn't have one visitor in all that time, including his
Damn.
family. So
No, you're quarantined. You're locked
Yeah.
in. That was it. I mean, that was one of the most deadly epidemics in this country. If you look it up, most of you guys don't know it at your age,
Oh
but
yeah,
no.
polio was the killer. It went
Jeez.
worldwide too.
Yeah, all over, just like COVID. I mean, you usually like you hear like in recent news, like a Ebola or what is it, Ebola or whatever, like what 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, we know of that one, but that wasn't even like really in the U.S. Like how
Right.
COVID and polio
you,
would have been.
back then, and Johnny, of course, can attest to this. When Jonas Salk created the vaccine, he was a doctor, of course. He just gave it away. I mean, he could have licensed it and become a billionaire. He just gave it away. And
Right. A true
contrary to
doctor
what,
trying to
well,
save mankind, not
well,
build
he did
more
stop
condos.
he stopped the polio epidemic in its tracks. But contrary to what you saw during the COVID years, which we're just getting out of,
Yeah.
people are arguing. They're anti-vaxxers. Some are taking it, some aren't. I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to take it. I think only 70% did take it. But the
Yeah.
Salk vaccine,
Pfizer,
everybody.
Pfizer multiplied their growth, I don't know, by 100 times.
I'm
They've
sure.
created more of these vaccines. I mean, if you watch television, every 15 minutes there's another vaccine you should be taking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is, it shows you how much society changed. When the Salk vaccine came out, no one said, "I'm not taking that vaccine." No
They
one.
lined up. They lined up for it.
We went to school one day, and there was a couple of nurses there, and I mean, I was 6 years old. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And roll up your sleeve. There was no questions asked. You got the vaccine and you lived.
Yeah.
So
So so during the COVID time, this is when you guys really started writing the Six Family. Is that
well,
correct?
it went fairly quickly. But we have a system.
Hmm.
Uh, Writing, we did this together. I have the writing experience. So I would write a chapter and email it to him, and then he'd get back to me with his ideas. What's got to be, wants any changes or certain parts of it, whatever. His input meant everything. But I was thinking as I was writing the book, could I have done just as good a job as I did with the Sixth Family if there was no Hollywood Godfather? And Johnny just came to me one day and rang my bell and said, "Hey, let's write a novel." The thing was, I knew him so well by then. I got him down really well, and I took a lot of backstory from Hollywood Godfather,
Yeah.
my love of the movie Mob, and things we couldn't talk about, for fear of one, pissing people off. We don't want to piss certain people off, and two, these prosecutors have a long memory.
Yep, they do.
Uh, he came up with the idea and the slogan or the disclaimer
The one
at,
line was great.
at the beginning of the book.
Oh, I
This is a
know.
work of fiction,
Hmm.
except for the parts that are true.
Yeah, I like
So
that. I was going to bring
yeah,
that up to you guys about that because I thought that was smart, because
It's a good
I'm
hook.
yeah, exactly. And from seeing all of Johnny's interviews and stuff he's done in the past, I mean, I think that was perfect for how you guys put it together, that entire book, because I knew right when I read that, it's like, yeah, this is going to be a good story. There's going to be some true parts in there, and there's going to be the fiction to jazz it up and stuff, and avoid an indictment and piss people off as well.
well, we got the idea from the book The Godfather, which of course Gianni is very familiar with.
Oh yeah.
When that book came out, it broke ground because there were similarities between the characters and real people. Johnny Fontaine was the biggest one, where everybody said, "That's Frank Sinatra. That's Frank Sinatra." He had to have done that, but it gripped people so much, and it was a great idea. To
In fact, that one character he's talking about, Frank Sinatra baptized my son Luciano, and for 2 years we didn't talk because I did the movie. At first, he called me actually, and he had Dorothy called, said the old man wants to talk to you. So he gets on the phone. He said, "Johnny, we're close friends, right?" I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "If I asked you to do me a favor, would you do it?" I said, "Whatever you want, Frank." He said, "I hear you're going to do The Godfather." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't want you to do it." And he caught me off guard. I said, "Okay, Frank, I won't do it." And I hung up. Then I'm saying to myself, "Is he nuts?" So I had to wait a day. I waited a day and I called him back. I said, "Dorothy, can I talk to the old man?" I used the same dialogue. I said, "Frank, we're friends, right?" He said, "Of course." I said, "If I asked you to do me a favor," and I knew he had, I wish I had a camera to see how he was thinking, saying he's setting me up. I know. So he said, "Oh, anything you want." I said, "I'm going to ask you this question. You got to tell me the truth. If I asked you not to do Here to Eternity, would you have done it?" And he hung up on me.
and he didn't talk to you for several years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Damn. Just so you ended up doing it, and then the whole movie went out, and you blew up after that point, right?
Well, not only that, it's a situation like what he's talking about now, Pat, is that I mean, if you see our newsletter that's out right now for April, and that goes out to everybody, Pat.
It's on Instagram right now.
Okay.
Yeah, first of the month. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see at the end of this month, I'm at the Academy Museum for Motion Pictures. It's like one of the biggest honors you could have,
Damn.
and I'm hosting Sunday, August 30th, Corleone Fine Italian dinners in their dining room. In their dining room sits 300 people, and they're doing it every Sunday. And guess what they're cooking?
What do they got?
Corleone Fine Italian Foods, which I just happen to own worldwide.
Yeah.
Damn, man. So you got a lot of stuff still going on
My
from
God.
from that movie. I mean, that one.
That's where I was going with that. I don't know what I'd be doing if I didn't do The Godfather. I probably wouldn't have met Pat. You wouldn't be talking to me about like I love business,
Yeah.
so I own, and I try to associate everything with that. Like my clothing line was La Cosa Mia by Gianni. I want to keep everything in that vein.
Yeah.
But it's gone crazy.
Yeah, and you've been able to
Yep.
make success off that name for quite a damn while. I mean,
Oh my
take
God, you're talking
advantage of
about
it.
Well,
73 countries. You're talking about a lot of money.
Yeah.
it's also admirable. To talk about opposites. Johnny lived the rough life on the street with literally no education. I mean, he was in a hospital when he should have been going to school.
Yeah.
with literally no education. He has accomplished all this. I have a doctorate, and I'm sitting here. I have a shirt on. I'm sitting here in my underwear, in this small town where I can't even see my next door neighbor. And if you hear something, that's a goat somewhere.
That's
You
funny. I
know,
love it.
and it makes me wonder why I wasted my time in school. I mean,
No, I've
I
been
You,
blessed. I've really been blessed.
yeah.
And I
I
take
mean,
advantage of it. Like you say now, I'm on a 18 city tour. I took our book and made it into a musical. It's an 80-minute show. In fact,
there.
next weekend I'm in Atlantic City, Bally's Casino. I'm doing all 14 casinos they own.
No, I mean that's it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. I mean Johnny just be living proof of that, and so is Patrick. I mean whatever you do in life, I mean you can be whatever the hell you want, and you guys sure as hell did that. And I mean it's pretty amazing. You have two different backgrounds, and I think that it's perfect. I mean you guys came up in the same area, obviously, but went different paths. But I think that gives you guys like
No, we're a perfect
being
formula because he's
yeah.
a genius, and like you said, he's a professor and all that. I can't write my name. I couldn't get on. I couldn't get on this show today. I got more equipment than I have a studio here. I got more laptops and everything else. I don't know how to turn them on. I have to call
Yeah.
them.
That's why you have an assistant.
Exactly.
You talk about Adrian, the American dream. You could do whatever you want to do, and it's ingrained in our heads. You
Yeah.
can do it. This is the land of opportunity. Well, I had a grandmother on my father's side who was, real Italian. I, she was always old to me. She was old when I realized she was my grandmother, and she continued to be old. And to me, she always wore the same dress, the black dress with white polka dots. I'm I, I'm convinced she had a whole closet full of them. But everybody downtown where we lived, all these old ladies, once their husbands die, they're in mourning literally for the rest of their
Most of their
lives,
lives.
and
Yeah.
they wear the same style dresses, black dress with white polka dots, and you see them sitting, hanging out their windows with these pillows that, by the way, never come in the house. They're on that ledge, rain, snow, sleet, or hail, forever. They just sit there, and these old ladies just lean over, rest on those pillows, and talk to people. They could be on the fourth floor. They're talking to people on the street, and that's their lives. But my grandmother, she's a very salty person, and this American dream thing. And I was talking to her about it one day. She still spoke broken English. And I said, "Yeah, they told us in school that you can be anything you want to do." And she says, "Oh, that's the bullshit." And I said, "Why, Granny?" And she said, "A lot of stupider people out there. You cannot be anything you want to be. What you got, everybody's got a talent, a thing that you can do." And she looks at me. I'm 7 years old. What can you do? Television just came out. I can turn the television on. What can I do? But I thought of that, and that you can be what you want to be. I think is a fallacy because you're capable of doing some things and you're not. But what I found out over the years is everybody has a talent.
Hmm.
You got to discover it. With Gianni, he's got a couple, but his business acumen shines above it all. Well,
Oh
he's
yeah.
made of himself with actually no help. With me, I mean, I bounced around. I can't. I was a high school dropout, and I went to join the army, and they told me you can't join because you don't have a high school education. So
Hmm.
I went back and I finished high school. I joined. I don't know if that was a wise thing. I wound up as an infantryman and machine gunner in Vietnam, but that's another story. But I came back. I
Not
came
bad.
out. I said, "Well, now what am I going to do?" And as Johnny was saying, the same thing. And you just fall into things. And there was an open police test, and I took it, and I got 100 on that. And things happen. Not till I was 48 years old did I find my talent, and that's writing.
Yeah. I mean,
I,
we
His
all got.
writing, he's amazing. I mean, I read a lot of things, and people on the street constantly the accolades we're getting on the first book, and now when you write a second book, like Pat said, it better be better than the first, and everybody's saying it is, and they couldn't believe it. I mean, the way he writes, you just keep turning pages.
oh,
People
thank
call me all the time. You were destroyed my life this weekend. I read the whole book.
Yeah,
My
that's what
better than me.
hey, that's what I did. I read it in like 2 or 3 days, man. I just kept going and going. I couldn't put it down. I mean, I
if
enjoyed it.
if I can evoke tears from Gianni Russo,
Oh my God, yeah.
I have reached the pinnacle of my writing career. And this is a tough guy. Well, he's not really a tough guy. He's been to the school of hard knocks. Let's put it that way. He's not a tough guy at all. But then that's a compliment. Most tough guys to me are a waste of time. But anyway, certain parts, like Adrian, you read the book, and there's a portion in that book, and I don't want to mention the character's name because it'll destroy the book. But at the end, when he's with this person and he kisses a snowflake off her nose.
Oh, Marilyn.
Yeah, that was enough to evoke tears in me, and I wrote the damn thing.
I mean, that actually happened on the Brooklyn Bridge with her.
Oh, okay. So that
Yeah.
was one of the true parts.
Yeah, we don't want to, we don't want to mention, what give away any spoilers, but the premise of the book is a lost diary from Marilyn Monroe and Gianni, and that's taken from the relationship is taken from real life, and Gianni could talk more about that.
Okay, we'll pause right there because it's about to end because of the 40-minute mark. But then I'll send you guys a link right now, and then just join back, and we'll keep going.
Okay, so we should close out of this.
Yeah, that's good. I'll send you guys a link again.
No, I meant he's back to help me get back on. But if it's an easy link, I'll just get on myself.
All right, bye, folks.
Yeah, it'll be this one again, StreamYard, or not StreamYard, Zoom. I mean.
Okay, please. All right.
Okay.
All right.
We were talking about before.
Oh shit!
I got it.
All right, go ahead.
Like we said a little while ago, it's based on fact. So we wanted to stick to Gianni's life. Of course, put a little drama in there. But Gianni had a relationship with Marilyn Monroe, which he can talk to.
And it's a situation where she wanted to leave Fox because she's made some great movies, but they were all sex symbols. And what was that one thing she did? A Pat that.
Well, one of her last ones was Some Like It Hot, but she
no, the one
after there, and everything was dealt with the sexuality. But toward the end, she made. In fact, the last movie was The Misfits.
That's the one.
I've seen that numerous times. I mean, she's got some acting chops. And
so she wanted to pursue that, and the Xanax said, "No, you can't. We control you. You're a sex symbol." Yeah. So, but they didn't realize she's very well liked by the mob. It's amazing. Accardo, Costello, they all love this lady, and she's like a little girl. When you see her, she has a very low esteem, and when they all met her, they just wanted to help her. It was funny. Sinatra, all of them. So what happened, she came here, fortunately, and he hid her out in the Waldorf Astoria suite that he controls. And she was there for a year. And over that year, we nurtured a great friendship first. It wasn't about sex, but most people who have had a relationship with Marilyn, including most of the people, the guy I co-starred him in, Marlon Brando had sex with her. Tony Curtis, when we did Lepke, he talked about her. Sinatra, which I felt so bad because she really thought he was an uncle. But all she thought she can give you back is that. She had such a low self-esteem. And, men, they just took advantage of her. But with us, we both needed a hug. There was a parallel we had because when I was 12, when I got out of the hospital, she was 12, they put her into an orphanage. And she was looking out the window and she saw the water tower of Warner Brothers. And she said, someday I'm going to become an actress. When I finally got the window bed on the 7th floor of Bellevue, which is still there, the building, a mental institution, they turned it into a quarantine ward. And I looked at the window, and it's the first time I ever saw the Empire State Building, because everything in our neighborhood was 10, maybe not even 5 or 6 story down on Mulberry Street. I never saw a tall building. I never left the neighborhood. And I said, someday I'm going to be uptown. Well, I came up and I never left.
But you had to go through some struggle to get there, you know what I mean?
Well, once I got out of the polio ward, there was no more struggles. If I beat that was my margin. I'm not failing. And it gave me the energy. And that's why even today, I got kids that are, 63. They say, how do you keep doing what you're doing? Because they read, and I don't even talk to them. They read, I'm on tour. Like next week, I'm at Bally's in Atlantic City doing my show. I'm doing 18 cities. It's 80 minutes. They're going to watch television, sit in a rocket chair. Forget that.
That that's not your style, man.
Yeah, some people are just built to hustle, man. Especially going through some shit like that, where you had 5 years of your life taken from you just, because of this damn viruses that go around. And I mean, really, it's got to be a mind change, for anybody that has to be stuck in, a room like that or whatever it was for that much time.
Well, the first 90 days that I was there, I learned a very important lesson that most kids, I think, would have destroyed them because I was making friends with kids. We're all kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stopped because most of those kids died. I was building a relationship. And then when they went to therapy, they would never come back. And they scrubbed the bed and they said, no, Johnny ain't here no more. He went to heaven. And I'm saying to myself, what the hell is going on? I don't want to talk to them about it anymore because how many disappointments can you take?
Yeah.
And that's why when we started relating to this, and well, you didn't read the first book. The last sentence in the first book is yes, you can. That's the last sentence in the book. And that's our motto.
Well, that's the theme. All books should have themes. And that's the theme of that book is, try, just keep on trying. You're going to have, you have more failures in life than you have successes. I mean, things go bad. The average person just say, the hell with this. I don't want to go through this again. But Gianni was just the opposite. He just kept on pushing and pushing and pushing. And obviously, he had a lot of successes toward the end. But the purpose of the book was to say, look, if I can do this with actually, zero education, zero.
That's what it's about.
And look where I am now. You can at least try. And that was the theme of the book.
No, yep. I liked it. I thought it was really good, and to hear the actual background of, Johnny and you, I mean, it just makes the book more more powerful because, it was just
we're normal people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
getting at.
I shouldn't say we're normal.
No, that's going average.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch.
You're human. You're a human.
I've been called
living and breathing. We're made out of flesh.
Yeah.
Called a lot of things, but normal isn't one of them. So,
yeah.
I kind of want to touch on with the Six Family book. The Mafia was involved with Marilyn, and you said, I'm not going to get too much into it, but what was you said?
Talk about it.
we don't want to give away any spoilers. In other words, that's what you said.
Well, I mean, I know. Okay, what I can say is, Johnny, you grew up, and Frank Costello was your mentor, right?
Yeah, at the beginning. Then, when I started traveling in the '60s, they wanted me to travel to meet everybody because he groomed me well enough. So the next family I met was in Chicago, Tony Accardo. Yeah. Then I went to Kansas City. Then I met every mob family in the United States because the deal that they made, unbeknownst to me, he made with Joe Kennedy because he was partners with Joe Kennedy during Prohibition. And they amassed 30 million each then. You know what that is in today's dollars?
How much?
And Joe Kennedy asked him, his son was already a senator in New York, and he wanted to run for presidency. And they needed, a Catholic being a president, never happened. So they thought, get the mob, get all the unions, the Teamsters, the culinary. Their membership is enough votes to swing any election. Yeah. And that's what that was about. But it gave me an opportunity, which stayed in my life. I'm still friends with a lot of these guys. They're in their 90s yet. And in fact, we just lost one who's in the book. We lost a guy at the end of the book that book is dedicated to a guy
that passed away. That was a mob boss.
Guy. Oh yeah,
real guy.
He's a character in our book.
Yeah, he's a character in the book, and he had cancer, and he passed away right before the book was published.
And I visited him for 31 days straight. So when we were doing this, I mean, he was so enamored that I was doing this, and it's unfortunately, you know, I've lost 43 people during
Yeah.
COVID. That's a lot of people,
Yeah, it really is.
all different age groups. So I mean, this guy was in his 80s. I'm losing kids in their 30s. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. So with you growing up and doing that with, Frank Costello, what what part were you with him just making the connections with everyone and being his guy to go to these
I was a
meetings?
messenger. I was a
Okay.
messenger, clean. No, they could never do nothing to me. In fact, later on, I mean, the first tell you the brains of these guys and how they protected me, unbeknownst to me at that time. As you get older and you get educated of life, my first time I went to Chicago, I always saw him every morning between 10:30 and 11 o'clock at the Waldorf. I had to meet him there. And this one particular time, he says, "You're going to Chicago tomorrow." I said, "Okay." And he gave me an envelope. He says, "There's an airline ticket in it. Somebody will pick you up at the airport and they'll take you to the farmhouse. You're going to meet a man." It's okay. That's all I ever, I don't ask questions. That's why I lived so long and did this job so well.
Yeah, no shit.
So I get there, and the guy who I got to be friends with, Frank Ballesteri, who picked me up at O'Hare, happened to be the shooter that shot Sam Giancana. So these are the guys I was building as they were growing. I was growing with them.
Oh my
So that's why I have the relationships with them.
Did
So I get to the Palmer House, and they introduced me to this guy, Sidney Korshak. You should look this guy up. So he introduced himself. He said, "You have an envelope for Bessie?" I gave him the envelope. And I've carried envelopes by years now. And he opens it up and took the money out, which like I knew was like $10,000 wrapper, put it in his pocket, and he said, "Sign here and sign here." He gave me a copy, and he signed my copy, and he put in his pocket. He said, "You know what this means?" I said, "No, because I can't read. How am I going to know what it is? I just signed my name." So he said, "You just retain me as your lawyer. Every conversation we have now is under privilege of attorney-client." This is the brains, this guy. You got to look up Sidney Korshak to find out where he went online. But that's how much protection they had for me. And it went on till years with the Vatican. I was with the Vatican for 8 years, 10 years, just moving a lot of money. But
did they ever want to bring you in as a made guy or?
a couple of times Chicago said, "You come with us." And I said, "I'm not allowed to do that." See, they had so much respect for my family out of Sicily. Like my Uncle Angelo sent a lot of these guys here in the beginning. Frank Costello's mother and father came because of him. And a lot of people don't know Carlo Gambino came to this country, and he's ahead for your audience that don't realize the strongest crime family in New York at that time, and probably still, maybe not now, I don't know what it is, but is the Gambino crime family. Carlo Gambino came to this country as a made guy at 17. So, I mean, that's the kind of people that were sent to you. And that's why, they all knew Angelo Russo. And that's why I got a lot of respect too. And then I won't spoil it too when you read our first book,
Okay.
how I really got their attention at 12 years old.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean,
Pat,
somehow
Pat's
you got to get their attention.
Oh, yeah. No, that's one thing about Pat. He knows how to write to get your attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I told Gianni often when we were doing this first in the series. This is a series, by the way. The Sixth Family is the first in a series of Gianni Russo fiction books. And I said, most of my career has been done collaborating with people who want their stories told. So I'm known as the with guy. It's my story by whatever his name is, and a little type on the bottom. It's with Patrick Picciarelli. And uh, you know, it's nice. I mean, obviously, Johnny and I became fast friends, and it's led to a lot of things. And obviously, the second book, and meeting people, it's been great. But the average person I don't consider Gianni Russo average by any means. It's difficult to write a book about somebody because they have an inflated opinion of themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't ask for a book to begin with. Yeah. Gianni was different. You know, somebody comes along and says, "I want to do your life story," they jump on it. You know, because they don't want to lose the opportunity. With Gianni, was different. He started looking for somebody who can tell the truth and put it on paper that people will understand what the old neighborhood was like, what these wise guys are like, what the police are like, what the politicians are like. And that's why it took him 20 years, to find me. Well, basically, our agent put us together. But I asked myself, do I want to continue doing this? Because some of these people, really, they want to give the impression, particularly when you're dealing with people in organized crime. And some of my books are about organized crime, and some of them are about cops. But they all want to put an impression forward that they're something that they aren't for the most part. And I always had to rein them in because no publisher is going to believe all this bullshit. That's what I used to tell. I said, there's ups, there's downs. But what publishers want to see in any book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, that the character in fiction or the person that the memoir is about changes throughout the course of that person's life. Not that they were perfect to begin with, and the book, they're still perfect. When you're writing about police officers, how many people I arrested, this, that, and people that are in organized crime, they didn't do anything. The other guy did it. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I was talking about this with Gianni, and I said, if I could spend the rest of my writing career just writing your fiction series, I'd be happy. So that's my goal. Yeah, in the twilight, it's just to put out a book or two a year that everybody will enjoy. They're all going to be different, obviously, but with when you write a fiction series, the hardest part of writing a fiction series is not to write the same thing over and over again.
Right.
I don't know. Are you an avid reader, Adrian?
Yeah, yeah. I've been reading a lot of books with all my guests and everyone that I have come on my show. I read all their books.
What about fiction series?
I'm getting into it now that I've read your guys's. I mean, I enjoyed it, but
yeah.
I read their life story when I do their interview. But like with your guys's, I wanted to make sure that I read your guys's book so I would have in my head, right away, fresh in my head.
Be aware if you're going to start reading a fiction series. Naturally, you start out with the first book and say, "Well, this woman, well, she can write, he can write, and this is really good." But after a while, the problem with doing a series, and I've read a series where there's been 26 books with the same character. After a while, you're reading the same story, the same formula over and over and over again. And I don't want that. I didn't even want a hint of that. And well, Gianni and I, we don't want that at all. So we decided we're going to do this differently. So the Sixth Family takes place in 1986.
Right.
So you would assume that we're going to go forward now, but it's not necessarily. It turns out that the second book is going to be post 1986, going to take place in the late 90s or the early 2000s. But the third one could take place in the 70s or the 60s.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep going back and forth. And this breaks new ground. It's to keep the writing fresh, to keep the story fresh, and above all, to keep people wanting the next book.
No, I think that's smart.
It's something different. And I've never seen that before because in a series, it's always moving ahead. Yep. But things should change with the protagonist. And usually people say, gee, the first three books I did very well. I don't know if I want to take a chance. I mean, they're writers and they have imaginations and they could easily try to do something different. But the publishers don't necessarily want that.
Right.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you got this guy doing what he's doing, keep it up. But you find it's very, very predictable. For instance, the second book we're doing is going to take place on St. Martin Island in the Caribbean. Totally different characters, different everything, different premise. And then the third, the fourth book, so on and so forth. As long as we're physically able to write, but we're going to continue changing everything.
My question too is Johnny going to be the main character in each one, or are you going to be?
No, it's going to be his series. It's Gianni Russo.
I'm the thread in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Fortunately, I'm 80 years old. I hope Pat lives long enough to write all the stories. I know I'm good for 115 right now, they said. My
Okay,
doctor.
well,
115.
if I don't have a tornado coming through my basement in the next like 20 minutes, and I'm undecided because the wind is whipping like mad out there. But anyway,
Now I know why you stay in the basement all the time.
Yeah.
and I have one little window in here, but I'm sitting in front of it and I'm saying, if it's going to come, I can see the thing dropping right into my lap. But
Wow.
look, I'm a city boy. I don't know anything about tornadoes. All I know about tornadoes is they hit trailer parks. I don't live in a trailer park, and I had an idea. You know, there was about 3 years ago there was a tornado in downtown Nashville, and you know tornadoes never go to downtown. You know, they're always out in the boondocks somewhere. So I said, the mayor of Nashville had a brain in his head. He'd build a dummy trailer park right outside of the outskirts of Nashville. So let the thing sweep right through and wipe everything out, and you're gonna be fine. This is one of the reasons I'm not a politician, I guess.
That's true though. I mean, it seems like tornadoes always are out in the country area or like out the outskirts of town and shit.
Yeah, and
You know why they do that?
Why?
Because the damage is mostly there and they want to show the most damage. They're not going to show homes when trailer parks are thrown all over the place. And this trail is that's what it's well, the news. That's one of the things. The fictitious news today, Edward R. Murrow, all those guys got to be rolling over in their grave because years to be a newsman, you had to be a fact finder. You couldn't go on the air and well, we think this. What do you mean you think? Who?
What does that matter if it ain't a
you know
fact?
the, the, the difference between then and now is then there were three networks. That was it. You watched ABC, NBC, or CBS, and that's it. Now you literally have 1,000 stations to choose from. So
they're all vying for ratings. That's why.
the attitude of the television news programs are if it bleeds, it leads.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you got to have something that's going to shake people up. But invariably, they have in these tornadoes. And there's a lot of them around here, as I'm sure they are where you are, Adrian. Right? You're in flat country, right?
Yeah,
There's no
luckily I'm only one, maybe one almost came down, but I mean, we get warnings all the damn time, but you know, I've never had one came to our, fuck, 8 of them came to where I live in the 80s. I don't know if you ever watched Night of the Twisters, but that one actually came to our town and fucking destroyed it. But
and
since then, we've never had nothing.
I mean, did it destroy your house or anything? Or?
I wasn't around, but not
Oh,
my
okay.
family's, but it actually came in the, you know, like what Johnny was saying, like that it actually does come in to the main area of the town and fuck, yeah, it destroyed the whole areas out there.
Yeah, the
How many
closest
people died?
I don't know. I don't think too many, honestly. I don't think it was a whole lot, maybe less than 10, but
How old were you at the time?
just negative 20. That shit happened in the 80s.
Wasn't born yet.
Wow.
In the 80s, yeah.
Yeah. Boy, I have shoes that like from 1982. But anyway, I did. I have a good tornado story. I was doing a book signing in an Air Force base in Ohio, in a PX. Now, when I was in the military, a PX was a Quonset hut, and you went there if you smoked, you can buy a carton of cigarettes for $2, literally. The PXs
Yeah, the
now
PX
are
is a big thing. Yeah.
PXs now are like department stores.
Yeah.
And I was invited. I forget what the name of the Air Force base was. Wright Patterson Air Force Base. It is friggin' huge. And I go there, and they were waiting for me at the gate. They brought me into this PX. It was enormous. I mean, like 10 football fields, and they had set up an area for me right by the entrance, which is a good place to be, with a pyramid of the book I had written at the time. I forgot what it was. It really doesn't make a difference. I mean, it was higher than Abe Lincoln's hat. This freaking pyramid was all my books really high. I say, I am going to have a good day here. No sooner do I sit down or I hear this siren. And they even had an assistant, a young female air person, can't say airman, whatever she was. And she was running around getting me, refreshments and everything. She said, okay, any minute the doors are going to open. And that's when the siren went off. And all of a sudden, the doors open and a crowd of people come in. They hear the siren. They all turn around and they leave. Maybe you're talking about 500 people. So I said to this woman, I said, "What was it? Something I said?" I mean, but they don't like New York. And she says, no, we're in Tornado Alley. And that's a tornado warning. This is not an alert. This is a warning. And we're going to have to leave now. So we left.
Wow.
We left like an hour into the basement, but that was it. Now I didn't sell one book, and because everybody stayed home after that, the place was destroyed. Sure. The PX was still standing, but there was a lot of damage. So on the way home, to add insult to injury, I'm driving home I had a Jeep. I'm driving home on Interstate 70, and I'm nowhere near water. I mean, we're landlocked for like 1,000 miles in every direction. A seagull comes out of nowhere and smashes into my windshield. And I said, what? A seagull? And these things, I've never seen a seagull up close. I'm a city boy. Every now and then you go to Coney Island, there's a couple of drunk seagulls walking around, but, because they're eating things they shouldn't be eating. But this thing smashed through my windshield. And I said, what else can possibly go wrong today? This thing was enormous.
Especially when it's on your
that's
windshield.
the closest I ever got to a tornado.
But, what's that, Johnny?
Especially when they're on your windshield.
Yeah.
There you go. And I drove home with that bird looking me right in the eye. I said, I got to get the hell out of the state.
Yeah, fuck that. Well, let's see what else you guys want to. I know it's got about like 6 more minutes on here. Do you guys want to do more, or kind of get or wrap it up now?
Yeah, we can wrap it up. I mean,
let's do the last 6 minutes and keep it. So, well, let me ask you a question. After reading this, because we never have an opportunity to. We're being interviewed by you, but you read the book.
Yeah.
What's the highlights of the book that you think would be for our audience and your audience listening now is the reason for them to go buy the book?
I think the Mafia aspect, because I've done a lot of interviews with Mafia guys that were in the life and now they've changed their life. But I think the whole Mafia aspect of it and who you were involved with in the book, the bosses. I also think the whole Marilyn Monroe aspect of it as well, because there's so much that could have, happened like what happened in the book. I mean, I'm trying not to say anything to give it away, you know what I mean? But, I think
there's a lot to, you can give up 1 or 2 things. It's just a hook that way,
I mean, Marilyn Monroe is more popular today than she was when she was alive.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, for Johnny to have a relationship with her, I think, everybody that's probably in my age group now, I'm 20 years old or whatever, they still would know and they'd be like, damn, he really was involved with her, So I thought that was pretty interesting. I told my girlfriend about it too, and she's like, "Oh shit, really?" Because it's interesting, and my
She's
aunts,
an icon,
Yeah, my mom's sisters, they're 50, and they know of her, and they have the pictures of her and everything. So that part of it, I think, will catch people's attention from many age groups. You know what I mean? Because
we're finding that out too. We've crossed over about 4 different age groups with the first book. And I think this book is even going to be broader for us. Well, I see, like Pat said, I'm in a different city every other week, and I'm all walks of life. And I did in fact, I was in West Virginia, Colesburg, last Saturday, in a theater I couldn't believe. It was built 100 years ago. Amazing, they redid it, and I had standing ovation and a meet and greet in the end, and there was everybody there. There was teenagers who read the book. There were their mother and fathers who read the book. They passed it around the house, but they were all interested in the stories. And who was interested in the mob? Who was interested in Maryland? There's so many different, and that's the brilliance of the way Pat writes. I mean, so he's not just hooking you at one thing. There's about 6 things you could pick out and digest and say, okay, I want to know more.
Yeah, we'd like to really thank you, Adrian, for having us on. We're not used to this. We're usually the ones asking questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm sure.
You're a very good interviewer. You're very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, no, I appreciate. Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys were able to come on my show and let me interview you, because when I initially reached out to Patrick, I was just like, damn, I really want to learn more about you. And he's like, well, it's only right to bring Johnny on. I was like, yeah, it is. I'd really like to hear from him too. I didn't know how possible that would have been. So when he's like, yeah, he said, yeah, we'll do it. And I was like, holy shit, this is happening. So yeah, it's an honor to meet both of you too. And after reading your book, I mean, it I don't know, it just really brought me closer to wanting to know what more you guys got going on, and that you guys are still working hard and hustling, man.
A lot of fun. But it's not even work to us. We enjoy what we do.
Exactly. That's just fun. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, once you can make money and a career off of just having fun, it's not work.
This is the most second enjoyable thing you can do. And
what other mob guys have you, if you don't mind? Well, they're on your show, so you can talk about them.
Yeah, I've had on Larry Mazza, which is Pat was saying he was trying to get a hold of, Bobby Luisi, John A. Light, Frank DiMatteo, some bookies as well, Chicky Ciccatelli, John Merges. They were both bookies. And who else have I had? Anthony DeLuca was with Frank DiMatteo. They were underneath Joey Gallo's crew. They were associates. And hell, I've had quite a few. I'm trying to think who else. Myron Sugarman, he was like a Jewish gangster his family was a part of. Ori Spado was another good one.
Well, it's so funny that you say that, because I did a movie called Lepke.
Yeah.
And Tony
Louis
Curtis,
Lepke.
Louis Buchalter. And I played Albert Anastasia, no less. His brother is my godfather, Tony
Really?
in real life.
Holy shit.
And it's so funny. I mean, when you start to think about that whole, and here we are talking about them. I mean, figure that out. No, I think as men and women are enamored by the mob, always have been. Bogart made a career, Cagney made a career. And that, I think, having that ability to tell a story like Pat does, that intrigue's going to go forever. And then you have the tinsel of Marilyn Monroe and the tinsel of this. It all works.
Well, that recording's just about to end here, less than 30 seconds. So I appreciate you guys.
Okay, thank you for having us, and I'll be in touch with you shortly, Adrian, off the air. All right.
Okay. These two guys make one hell of a duo. Who would have ever thought that these two would have partnered up and made books? Please comment any key takeaways that you got from this interview. Also, please share it with anyone that you think will enjoy it. Also, please don't forget to hit subscribe to my channel. I'll be sure to put Johnny and Patrick's books in the video description. I'll also put my clothing brand in the video description as well if you want to support me. I got t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, and sweats all on my website. At the end of this interview, you'll see a Mafia playlist pop up with Mafia associates, made men, capos, and on the other hand, law enforcement that took down the Mafia. I also got on there people that were related to members of the Mafia. The last thing that I'll bring up is my Mafia documentary series I've been working on. There's 11 episodes to my series. Each episode is about a different crime family. Please watch this trailer to get a better understanding on what my documentary is about. Thank you again so much for watching. This life is very twisted. You never know when it's your time to go. One day you're putting in work with someone, and the next day they're taking you out.
In our days, it was very quiet. Nobody ever talked about this. Nobody glamorized it. It was all like hush hush.
Not a glamorous life. And again, it's not what you see in Goodfellas. It's not what you see in Casino. Some days you were dead broke. Some days you had $2,000 in your pocket. It wasn't every day. You don't know anything else. You don't know what it is to go wake up 6 o'clock and go to work. Work? What the fuck is that? I wasn't going to work.
Even bosses get murdered in this life.
There was younger guys underneath him, and he wasn't doing the right thing, I guess. He was coming out of the card game, and unfortunately, a lone gunman came up and shot him 5 times.
People who knew me would tell you, I like to use the bat a lot. If I had to shoot you, I'd shoot you too. I've done that.
This life requires many mixed personalities. You have to wear many hats in this life to try and survive.
You become 4 or 5 different people all at once. And you got to go home and be a dad and a husband. You got to go to work and do your job. You got to be out in the street and be a gangster.
Bonanno family is called the Bonanno family because of my grandfather, Joe Bonanno.
That life there is gone. Today you have to be legitimate today.
Man. But you got to be an idiot to want to be a hooligan today. Jail time's now like 100 years for doing nothing.
You'll be dead, in prison for life, or in the witness protection program.
I don't know anybody. Now, when Mafia turned their back on me, I know everybody.
There was the big flip of the Gambino underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Here he is, signing autographs in a restaurant on Mulberry Street. And was supposed to be a secret organization.
He was a very, very, very violent guy. No question about it.
Albert Anastasia, he was a Brooklyn guy. He was probably the biggest killer in the history of the mob.
Michael Francis, his father, Sonny, was a really tough guy. But he really raised his son right.
If you want to see a gangster, that's Sonny Francis. And John Sr. don't compliment anybody.
This is a documentary series about the American Mafia. It includes 11 different crime families. Each episode is about a different one. The crime families include the Gambino, Genovese, Bonanno, Colombo, Lucchese, the Gallo Crew, Chicago Outfit, the Philadelphia Mafia, the Patriarca, the Trafficante crime family, and the Jewish Mafia. Please subscribe to my channel to watch each episode as they come out.